Welcome to the show. We have a hopefully an interesting podcast for you guys. Being the first one, I sure hope I do bring you an interesting one. So, again, this is welcome to the show. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. This podcast is dedicated to, like the title says, the man, the modern man. We're gonna, discuss a lot of stuff on this show. Everything's on the table, regardless of sensitivity regarding the man. Um, and today we're just gonna dive into a little, general topic. What is it to be a modern man, or just be a man in modern society? And I think now more than ever, it's a very complicated answer. Not as easy as it was just 10 years ago. It's changed so much with so much of the you know movements happening now. I think men of all colors are being demanded or being looked at and being demanded to change the way that we operate to a certain extent. Because I think for the most part, a lot of what the modern man has to deal with is ego driven or self inflicted, being weak when they're not supposed to, or not standing up when they should have. And it kind of just trickles and breaks the ego, or, cracks the armor, as some say. But I don't blame anyone for that. It's just the changes that are occurring, and whether us men want to acknowledge it, or whether we want to admit it, or even engage in it, it is what it is. It's just the way it is, or it's going. Uh, I don't see it as all the way as some of the, some YouTube channels or some information sites out there. I don't think it's going to go to those extremes about how men are being pussified, even though there is some truth to that, or how men are being, castrated, and women are taking more of the power. Like, I don't believe in that extreme. Yes, there is examples. Yes, and I'm sure you could show me information from both sides, and we're gonna have those discussions in due time, in due process, and in the correct podcast. I'm sure I'm hoping that people that listen will leave comments and find they find the information that I'm going to be putting out informative. And the reason for the creation, which is what I should have got into, um, was that there is a lot of misinformation for men out there. You hear alpha this, beta this. You're not a man if you this, and you hear it from women, you hear it from guys, and oh my God, I did one thing, and that guy said it's beta. Oh my God, and so it's so confusing, and young men are sadly just becoming more and more rude. They're just becoming more and more frustrated with women, and with the whole just being, not even just with women, just being men. It could be at work, It could be with women, it could be with friends, with family, with their children. It's just no one knows now what it is to be a man. And I'm not saying that I have that 100%, this is the way it should be. What I want to do is kind of bring the correct flow of information as how you should be thinking with an ever changing world, because we can't stay uh, in one way of thinking, or as the world is changing, stick to one formula of seeing things or a prism of seeing things. We have to adapt, and that's unfortunate the way it has to be. You could tell me everything about how it was back in the days, but because of the invention of the internet and everything being so easily available, just like learning in colleges or in high schools is becoming uh, obsolete. Or just so is society, so is the news, and now the love life and dating, and you could Skype and you can meet instantly, you could have dates and online, so everything is progressing super super fast. So if it's progressing super super fast, we have to adapt. And that's where a lot of these men, or a lot of us men, become frustrated, because there's not a correct information. And yes, we could get into the debate as to why that is, and whether um, you know uh, lack of male influences, whether it's the soy in the milk, whether it's the women being too much involved. We could have that debate, and we'll have that debate in due time. Uh, it would be too many. We'll talk for 100 hours if that's the case. If we wanted to get everything out in one session, and it's definitely important for us to, or I think, to get a new perspective. Which, when I say stuff, some of the stuff is gonna ring old, because some of the information out there is. I'm not saying everything's false. I'm gonna say 50% of what you're hearing is correct. The other 50 are trying to get your money. Or just trying to get your clicks, for sponsorship, whatever it could be. So getting genuine information is super important to just being able to have a realistic outlook as a man, as what is expected of me, and how far should I take any kind of information. And I'm not here to confirm nor deny any way of any methods, any coaching strategies. That is not what this is. This whole podcast is just to the evolution of the modern man, given the evolution of society, the evolution of technology. You might not like it. You might be coming into this kicking and screaming, and guess what? You better get used to a lot of lotion, because there's going to be a lot of lonely nights. You know what I mean? So you could either adapt and learn just learn the way that it's going to go, and not buy into this whole, you have to be this whole one thing. And yes, there is a structure. You do have to hold some kind of a discipline, and we'll get into that in future podcast. But for this podcast, we're just doing a brief introduction into just what the expectations of just being a man, and what is expected of us now. And a lot of the time, we're not getting the correct information, or we're getting the too much information from different sources that then confuse us. Because I can't say that all of them. Some of them are really close to having perfect methods. But then you hear someone else and it conflict, and we're all nature of bias. We're all humans, and we all like our biases or biases confirmed. And when you hear a coach say, oh no, or someone say, a friend, a parent, or whatever, say, oh no, this way, and it agrees with your viewpoint or with your point, you kind of tend to let that skew the way you think. And sadly, that's the problem with too much information. Just the right information is great, but too much information could destroy you just as much as no information. And that's where we're going now. We're having a youth with too much information and developing this whole warped sense of morality, warped sense of responsibility, warped sense of entitlement. There's just this warped sense of everything. And I think it's important for men to come out and challenge some of these popular, very popular beliefs and outlook and coaches and strategists and pastors and school teachers, whoever is in these authority positions that are molding um, our young men. It's incumbent for us to be able to create shows like these, or just create the conversation of you know what are you teaching, and what exactly is going on, and making sure that our young men are coming up with a certain standard applied, not negating anything happening on just the progression aspect, but still making sure our young men are being brought up with the correct way of thinking to achieve a certain way of thinking, to achieve a certain action in life. And that's what we want to get across, is that kind of thinking. Because again, there's just so much information, and you hear it from women telling men, men telling men, grown men telling men, just like myself, older people telling men, young kids telling young kids telling old kids. So everyone is telling everyone, and everybody knows better than all. And I just see it all every day on social media, where these young guys are getting broken and losing jobs, not going after careers, separating from their families, getting into loveless relationships, falling for traps that they're not supposed to, buying into the popularity, contest, buying into the fancy clothes and the fancy shoes. Let me go out of my way and spend money, live for today, not for tomorrow, which is something that the music, society, culture is just teaching not only our young men, just all men in general. They're, if you see the news, depending on what kind of news source, whether you believe, the pacification of as I can't remember her name, Tommy Lawrence. She came out on that rant about guys and stuff like that, and the pacification of America, or not America, but kind of America, but about the modern male. And you hear about the strong women and how men are supposed to like be submissive, and it could get very frustrating, where you see a lot of people going their own way, or a lot of men going their own way. Just because they don't want to deal with that. And I just think it's because of the cluster of information. When you're just hearing too many voices, you gotta just listen to a few, and then challenge yourself, where you truly know, like, at the end of the day, uh, all men look at themselves in the mirror, and you only know your secrets. You're the only one that knows. If you could hold yourself accountable, and you could say, I'm giving 100%. And as long as you're doing that, then you're on the right track. But if you know that you're lacking in one of those areas, or in a lot of those areas, it's up to you and incumbent on you to challenge yourself and put yourself in a position of growth and healing in that area that you're lacking. Being a modern man, a lot of men are scared to talk to women, and depending if men are in a power position, if you're a boss or whatnot, you can't hug a coworker, or you can't, be flirty at work. And of course, I'm sure I'm gonna get people saying yes, you can. Some no, you can't. But it's very different now. For the most part, you shouldn't. If you, I've been a manager for several years, and it's not okay. To ever flirt with that, you put yourself in a really, really fireable position, and it's just a bad look. Whether I am talking to men, and this show is for men, and no one in authority should use that authority to be able to get laid, because that's just a weak position, and you never want to be in a weak position as a man. And but at work, men are expected to be, not only leaders but also show restraint, going against our biological nature. And it's very hard for some men, because just as women can be flirty at work, so can men. And a lot of men use that as a way to release their sexual frustration without cheating. Yes, some might look at it as emotional, but most of them use it really uh, innocently, kind of. Again, depends on how you want to look at it, because some, it's borderline emotional cheating, but I've seen some that are truly, truly innocent as you could put it, without being, standing up for cheaters or stuff like that. But it's been truly just like an innocent thing where it was just a certain need that was being fulfilled. It never became sexual or lusting. It was just someone that they were paying attention to, like a plant. Like if you get someone a dog or a plant, it was one of those links. Again, no, there is no justification for cheating. Like I said, it's a really close border with emotional cheating, and I'm not saying that. But at work, we're expected to be these leaders and hold frame and all that, which is what we should do. But again, it's going against what our natural nature is. So at work, when you're trying to focus, and women are becoming more empowered and are encouraged to put on more revealing outfits, and encouraged to, be more and more expressive of their sexuality. It is more and more expected of men to be even more and more restrained. And again, it just because a girl dresses a certain way doesn't mean she's advertising anything or offering anything. So it's all incumbent of the men. So the men at work should be showing a strong sense of control. So you don't acknowledge the low cut dress or the low cut blouse or the low cut anything, or the perfume or the makeup. You look at her as she was just with nothing, and you address her accordingly. And sadly, that's what men have to do. Now, a lot of women get dressed really, really nice to get compliments. And sadly, the way a modern man is expected to act is in a way that it could no longer be acknowledged. And some people might argue, well, it depends where you work. And I'm going to argue, no, it doesn't. Because all it takes is one suit, one lawsuit, one angry person to create that, okay, it's happened, it's never going to happen again. So, rule of thumb is that, sadly, men at work we're expected to be a certain way now, and women are in power, which I am all for. Again, like you just heard me say, that just because you dress a certain way doesn't mean anything. But if you are one of those females that do it for attention, my advice to men is that they don't acknowledge, to hold a strong frame of mind. I'm trying to refrain from an alpha beta BS, so I'm gonna just stick to strong and weak. But having a strong sense of mind to keep it professional, and keep those thoughts maybe in his head if he so chooses. I just say don't even entertain it. Kind of just get it, throw it away, because the more eventually you're gonna leak. It's gonna leak, and you're gonna say something, and the next thing you know, it starts from there. So rule of thumb is keep it uh, keep it away. I'm not saying this is not, I'm not going to get into like the man and dating in the office. We'll get into those discussions as far as dating at work and stuff like that. But my thing is rule of thumb, whether she's single, not married, whatever, because married women are the worst to do it. They do it to get that attention because they might not be getting it from their boyfriends or husbands. at work. And for I said, so they'll come to work, or their place of work, super nice, super revealing, because they want to get that, compliment. And again, men do it too. Us men, we know it too, but we have to be weary, not weary of it, but we have to be conscious of it, and not give in to our temptation to compliment, and not give into the not put ourselves in a position to get fired. There was a comedian that said that if an ugly, if a girl gets hit on by an ugly person, it's sexual harassment. But if the guy is 6 foot, 3, and fit, it's called flirting. So that's more or less how you have to think of it. And just think of yourself as ugly like I do, and don't talk to them and say, I'm not going to put myself in a position for her to scream anything. So, sadly, I wish it wasn't like that. I wish people would just be okay with being themselves and not get hurt with every other thing, and just hold personal boundaries before you take it to HR, because everybody's so quick to take everything to their local HR or their company's HR, as opposed to just holding a personal standard, saying, "Hey, Steve, I didn't like it," or "Hey, Samantha, that wasn't cool," and holding that. So us modern men is just, now you have to have this blah thing about it. Look at her with nothing in there. It's just a straight and narrow answer, and you move on. You know, and but in not in life, like in normal life, if you meet them outside of work, which is this is my other point, modern males, our expectations. We just went through general, and now we just finished up with a little bit in at work, what it means to be a modern male, and then the modern male in life. If you meet these women, again, I'm not a proponent of doing anything at work. Now, if it's outside of work and you see Samantha and she looks nice, and your intention is just to compliment and not to get laid, then by all means, I say do it. Again, you're showing a strong frame of mind, but you're not in a job setting where it's putting your livelihood in a position. Yeah, she could get offended, she could say something, and she could go to HR, but the likelihood is that it happened outside of work. It happened where he complimented you. Odds are is that she's not gonna take it the wrong way. She'll take it as a respectful act that you took it outside of work and you guys just happened to meet. Unless you give off like a creepy vibe, which I hope no one does that, where you followed her just to give her a compliment. That's kind of creepy. But if it organically happened, you're with your kid, she's with her kid, you guys are both single parents, and you happen to meet at a festival, and you say, "Wow, you look amazing today." As you're finishing or through the conversation, that's perfectly okay. And I hope more men do that and take the direct approach, because that's totally cool. You're not in a professional. You're not using your position as a way to scare her. This was just a spontaneous thing, and you're genuinely, with no intention. Like I said, that's the key there. You don't have an intention to get her number, to get laid, to get brownie points. You just genuinely like or want to compliment her. Then by all means, do it. You're not, that's the only time I think I say about, I don't think you should ever date someone from work, but if you do happen to want to compliment her, and like I said, that's the thing about being in a modern male in public. A lot of men are scared to just compliment a woman, whether they're a woman that they're dating or a woman out in general. Like they might be, they could see a single woman at a bar with a orange tight dress or whatever your preference is, and I see a lot of us men, we just lust. And it's cool to lust, but it's also okay to admire beauty. So if a girl has a pretty face, and I've done this several times, and it's weird because I've never gotten a bad reaction, because I do it in the most, I think the way I approach it is in a whole innocent way, where I'm not trying to get her number, whether I see her or sleep with her. I'm not, if I ever see her again, it doesn't really matter. But because it wasn't my intention to sleep with her, get her number, anything. I just genuinely thought she was beautiful. And I hold a belief. I mean, if I see something beautiful, whether it be a dog, a sunset, whatever, I'm gonna acknowledge the beauty of it. And women are no different. And as something that I want to keep on preaching is it's okay, or that I'm going to preach is that it's okay to give a girl a compliment. And I don't care what you think you look like, whether you think you're 600, 500 pounds, or you think you're like 150 or 180 cut, buff, whatever. There, don't you shouldn't care what she's going to say. That's what modern males should do, is be more, say what is on your mind, but again, not with the intention. If any intention that you have to do, if it's manipulative. So if I'm flirting to get a number, if I'm flirting to get action or to get laid, I'm being manipulative. So I don't want to do that, because that's not being strong-minded. When you're doing that, you're being weak-minded. You're saying, well, if I tell her she looks beautiful, she might give me a kiss. If I tell her she looks great, she might go out with me. That's being manipulative, and that's coming from a weak state of mind. But if you come from a strong state of mind, you're just going to compliment someone you find attractive, or something that you like. It could be not only on facial features. I've gone up to girls and said, "I love your fucking shoes." You know, I just want I think you look great in green. And it wasn't because I wanted her to give me her number. I'm sure she felt complimented, and 99% of them do. But I genuinely wanted to compliment her. I had already done it in my mind, so why not go ahead and finish the action in real life? You know what I mean? So that's the thing where more males, modern males, should be, doing more. And because if you hear a lot of these different, different stuff online, I don't want to stick to coaches or dating coaches, or it's just if you hear what's online, whether it be on YouTube or Reddit, or, like I said, websites, you'll get confused. There's a place to be scared, to lose your job, to flirt, or to be, assertive in your job. Unfortunately, that's our bread. That's where we make our living, and we can't cross that line. But still doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship or even interaction with a someone from a coworker. And now, if we exclude a work scenario, in just general life, you should be able, and you should be willing, and you should be seeking this when you see something beautiful or something that you like. And not only with females, with everything, with guys. I go up to guys too, and I'm like, man, your shoes are dope. Where'd you get them? You know what I mean? And it wasn't because I was trying to be friends with him. It was that I just thought he was, his shoes are dope, and I wanted to know where they were. I've been at the gym when I know a guy is killing it, and I'm like, yo, I don't mean to stop you, bro, but you're killing it, bro. And he just throws me a thumbs up, because I know I did that. They'll come up to me and say, "Oh, you're killing it at the gym." I'll just do a thumbs up, and I'll say, "Thank you, man," and I'll keep on going. Next thing you know, we develop a friendship. Not that day, but maybe a couple of days when I see him again. Next thing you know, the little fist pump. Next thing you know, it could develop into something, but that wasn't the intention either way. So it should be able to be a genuine, with no expectation, no return on investment, none of that shit. It's just a straight up compliment, and men should be able to do that in life, and be able to have that in modern life. uh what so if I had to sum it up, in life, what it entitles, or what does it mean to be a modern man in just normal life? It's being assertive, being super assertive, and just understanding that it's okay to be strong-minded and have an opinion and be direct. And that, should be the goal for all men. And then it leads us to to another point in modern man and relationships. Once we do get into these relationships, what is expected of us? A lot of what you hear in society is that men should be weak, and it's 50-50, and we share this and share that, and unfortunately, given society, women are gonna make their money, and that's okay. What is not okay is for men to not have a strong mind, and having a strong mind entitles having a strong will, having goals, having aspirations. And again, someone's gonna if someone hearing this will be, oh, that's being alpha. Whatever you define it, that's whatever you define it. I just think using those terms uh, is so, I don't know. It's become so, it doesn't hold meaning anymore. Like toxic. Like everyone throws toxic around. Everyone throws, you know, a hole around. Everyone throws a fuckboy around. Like they lose meaning after a while. So in relationships and being a man, you still have to be strong minded and hold on to those dreams and goals, and and still moving forward with that vision that you have, but understanding that in nowadays it's not like it's really affordable. And I get the argument with men should be making more, but given in even in that, some of these states are out of hand. And I get the argument move where it's more affordable. And if we wanted to have that discussion, we could have that discussion, but without going too crazy off the freaking end, off the deep end, just keeping it what normal would be, is that it's the woman most likely will work, and she is going to want some kind of say in what is going on in the household. And at the end of the day, there should be a dialogue between uh, both parties involved, and you should hear her out. Hear her out as to what her idea of it. But at the end of the day, the movement should be where your mind is at and where your goal is at, and having that as the ultimate outcome without disrespecting who she is, and not belittling her in her ideas or suggestions. So because you could always take suggestions and take ideas and add them to your plan, and that's always a good thing. It's when you become weak-minded and then your plans get taken over where it's not a good thing. So that way you are not degrading her, or taking her word away from her. You're more or less letting her suggest the information, and then you choose whether to adapt it or not, and you choose that whether it is in the benefit through the vision that you have. Some might not like that point of view, but it is what it is for men to have a relationship, or a healthy relationship, or have a boundary uh, in that relationship without being disrespectful. And it's actually, it's accepting of the female empowerment, but in doing it in a way that you don't hear it talked often enough. I'm not saying you don't hear it talked at all, because there's several that do, but you don't hear it talked about it enough. We're saying, yes, you accept the empowerment, but in this male female relationship, there could only be one captain. And I'm not saying that if guys want to let go of the ship and become a passenger and let her be a captain, And if you're perfectly okay with that, then you are okay with it. And you have to be okay with the outcome of that. And I'm not saying outcome in a negative aspect, is that there is a certain flow to that. You relinquish anything, any way of going, So again, I'm not saying that is a negative way or in a negative way. I'm sure it might be coming off in a negative way, and it's not. It's meaning that in either case, again, this show is for men, but in case women are listening to it, it is what it is when you relinquish that right. I mean, when you relinquish power. And it's again the same thing I would even say in that scenario. As the man, you're going to suggest things to her, but if she is of stronger mind than you, then she is going to listen to your suggestions and then either accept them or reject them, or adapt them or just ignore them. So it doesn't really change, but for the reasons of this show is that men should always be respectful, understanding about the same frustrations with work and a boss and all this good stuff, and understanding your woman or partner, but at the end of the day having a strong mindset to lead the relationship in a way you see fit, with having respect for your woman and or your partner. And then that just leads us into fatherhood and friends, and that what being a modern male now in 2020, being a father, sometimes has these unrealistic expectations, and so is with being a friend, with being a man and being a friend. Oh, you got to be there to change your friend's tire. They're like, you have to be cavalier and generous, and you know uh, uh, giving and spoiling your children, and hanging out with your friends every other weekend and going all crazy, and it's fine, if those are all aspects of a healthy male dynamic, a healthy male world. But it has to be just like with everything, not in moderation, but in your ultimate quest, in your ultimate goal. What is your vision? And your friends and family and relationships and in life and in work should reflect that vision wholeheartedly. And maybe not even wholeheartedly, but having that role, like what does that mean, and is it taking you to that vision? And same thing about your friends, like are your friends, are they on that same march to that vision, to that goal that you have? And that is the bit of a tricky part that men are dealing with. The way we talk, the way we act, the way we, respond. Everything is under the microscope with the empowerment movement of women, with a lot more, outlets, a lot more vocal women out there. It's really, really tough, to be a young man right now in 2020, or just being a man in general in 2020, for the most part in the Western world. I can't attest or say to the most of the world, but there's not enough in a true, unbiased, no agenda, uh, honest advice that is out there without someone saying, hey, pay me, hey, this, and these terminologies of beta and alpha. And I've heard sigma, and I don't even know how many, and I just laugh. And then people, I mean, guys, on Facebook, on other things, social media outlets, on YouTube, they'll leave like these, you know, conversations or stories on Reddit about what they did, and you're just like, whoa, where are you getting off being like so disrespectful? Or didn't anybody teach you a correct way to talk to a woman? Or, but it's because you hear this regurgitation of information from people that have no idea of what it is that they're saying. And a lot of these young kids, or a lot of these young men and older men, look at these videos and say, well, if he could do it, then I'm going to do it. And that's the way I'm doing it. Like in one of my Facebook groups, this guy posted his whole conversation with his girl that he had met. And it was so disrespectful because he was talking about the woman's role and how she needs to submit. And I was like, well, yo, why would you even talk to someone like that? That's having a strong mind. The people around you will naturally adapt to the way you're going. If the way you're going is genuine and true and honest without confliction, that you're just being genuine in any with no alternate motive. Like I could be a horrible boss that wants to motivate my team, but I'm motivating my team because I want the result for myself, as opposed to I just want to motivate my team because I just want them to get recognition or want them to have a great day with no expectation back from my team. That is being strong minded, cheering my team on because at the end of the day it meets my quota. That's being super weak. Information being applied in an incorrect way, it's completely damaging. Information, adaptable information, terminology that is not triggering, that most could identify with. And we're going to hit some subjects that are uncomfortable, some that are challenging, some that are even challenging for myself, that I do on a daily basis, but it's needed. It's needed for the modern male to not evolve, because we don't need to evolve anything. We just need to be able to adapt to a world that's changing. And all it means is we have to adapt. But in having a strong mindset, that cannot change. And if you have a strong mindset, everything else will become easier to deal with, whether that be our personal relationship, our work relationship, our jobs in general, finances, any kind of thing, anything that just trickles into that. It just trickles down if we stick with a strong mindset. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode 1. Promise to get better. Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe to the channel, like, share, be blessed. Have a great night.